Common pre-flop opening mistakes. In online poker games, your win rate is often decided before the flop is even dealt. Open too loose, size poorly, or ignore who is left to act, and you create low expected value spots that look fine in the moment but bleed over thousands of hands. Opening strategy is not about having a range you memorized. It is about building a range that survives real conditions: position, rake, stack depth, and the player types behind you. Today we are fixing the most common opening mistakes I see from otherwise decent players. These are the leaks that quietly tax your red line, inflate variance, and turn your standard opens into a long-term donation. 1. Opening the wrong hands for your seat. Your first job pre-flop is to respect position. When you open early, you are volunteering to play a bigger pot with more players behind you who can 3-bet or flat and realize equity in position. That means your under-the-gun range must be tighter and more robust than your cutoff or button range. The common mistake is treating opening ranges like a single list. I open these hands. No, you open hands because of where you sit and who can punish you. In a typical online pool, the button can open wide because position lets you realize equity and apply pressure post-flop. Under the gun cannot, because you get squeezed more and you play more pots out of position. First, early position mistake. Too many offsuit broadways like King-Jack. Offsuit, Queen-Jack offsuit, and worse, Ace-10 offsuit. They make second-best hands and get dominated when action heats up. Second, late position mistake. Not opening enough suited hands, suited connectors, and suited gappers that play well in position and give you strong semi-bluff coverage. 2. Ignoring who is left to act. Context dictates strategy. Your open is not made in a vacuum, it is made into a lineup. The players behind you change the expected value of every marginal open. If the blinds are tight and fit or fold, you can open wider. If there is an aggressive regular in the big blind who 3-bets a lot, your weakest opens lose expected value fast. In online poker, especially when multi-tabling, people default to autopilot. Autopilot ranges are where money goes to die. If a button has a 15% 3-bet in the seat behind you, your cutoff opens must tighten and skew toward hands that can continue versus 3-bets, either by calling or 4-betting. First, mistake, opening the same cutoff range regardless of whether button is a nit or a high-frequency 3-better. Second, fix, widen when the players behind are passive, tighten when they are aggressive, and remember that the most dangerous player is the one with position on you. 3. Using the wrong open size for the pool. Online sizing is about 2 things: stealing the blinds efficiently and building a pot size that matches how well your range plays post-flop. Most players either open too big out of habit or too small without understanding the trade-off. If rake is meaningful, and it usually is on most online sites, gigantic open sizes from early and middle position can be a silent leak. You bloat the pot with hands that do not want to stack off, and you pay extra rake in pots you could have won smaller. At the same time, if you min open into loose blinds that defend everything, you invite multi-way scenarios and reduce your fold equity. First, common leak, fix sizing everywhere without adjusting for table texture. Second, practical baseline. Keep sizes consistent by position, then deviate for exploit. For example, slightly larger from small blind. When you want to deny big blind a great price, slightly smaller from button when you are stealing wide and want cheap realization. 4. Opening trash because it is suited. Suited is not a permission slip. A hand like 10-4 suited can look playable, but it is often reverse implied odds in disguise. Yes, you sometimes make a flush. You also make dominated pairs, weak draws, and you get pushed off your equity by competent opponents. You want suited hands that have backup plans. That means suited aces with decent kickers, suited broadways, suited connectors, and hands that can make strong pairs plus strong draws. Weak suited hands from early position are a rake-friendly way to lose money. First, mistake. It is suited, I can play it. Second, fix. Ask, when I get called, do I have equity plus playability, or am I hoping to cooler someone? We do not do hope poker. 5. Calling too much from the blinds instead of 3-betting. This is an opening mistake from the other side of the table, but it directly affects your opening expected value. Many players open too loose because the blinds let them. Then they sit down against someone who defends correctly with 3 bets, and suddenly their standard opens collapse. If you are the opener, you must assume competent opponents will attack you. That means your opening range should include hands that can respond to 3 bets. If you are always folding to 3 bets, your opens are too weak, or your opponents are printing with aggression. First, mistake. Building an opening range full of hands that cannot continue versus a 3-bet. Second, fix. Include more opens with suited equity and connectivity, and trim dominated offsuits that fail under pressure. 6. Set mining as a plan. Anti-hope poker moment. In online environments with rake, small pairs are not magic. If you open pocket twos to try to flop a set and fold whenever you miss, you are paying a constant tax in the form of dead opens and poor post-flop realization. Small pairs can be profitable opens in many positions, but the plan is not hit set. The plan is to have a range that can c-bet, can barrel good runouts, can sometimes check back, and can win pots without making a hand. Relative strength is everything, and a low pair's strength changes drastically by board texture and opponent tendencies. Hand scenario, the autopilot, open that bleeds. Game, online, 6, maxes cash, 100 big blinds, effective. Hero is on the button. Hero. Hand, king of spades, jack of clubs. Preflop. Cutoff opens to 2.3 big blinds, hero flats on button. Small blind folds, big blind calls. 3, way to the flop. Flop. Jack of hearts. 8 of spades, 4 of diamonds. Action. Big blind checks, cutoffs, bets 33% pot. Hero calls with top pair, big blind folds. Turn is queen of clubs. Cutoff barrels 75% pot. Hero is now in a classic dominated region versus ace queen, king queen, pocket queens, queen jack, and strong draws that improved. This is what happens when you build pre-flop decisions around my hand looks playable instead of range interaction and future aggression. Pre-flop, king jack offsuit is a trouble hand because it makes a pair that cannot comfortably face pressure on dynamic runouts. The flat also invited big blind in, which increases your reverse implied odds and reduces your ability to win the pot uncontested. In many pools, this is a better spot to 3-bet or fold preflop, depending on the cutoff opening range and how they respond versus 3 bets. 7. Failing to connect your opening range to your 3-bet defense. Your opening strategy and your response strategy are one system. If you open hands that cannot call or 4-bet versus a 3-bet, you are building a range that collapses under resistance. That makes you easy to exploit, and it caps your expected value in tough online pools. When you open, you should already know which parts of your range continue versus a 3-bet. Not exactly by memory, but by logic. Hands with suited equity and decent blockers often make better continues. Hands that are dominated and offsuit often make better folds. This is how you stop donating to aggressive regulars. 8. Not adjusting for rake and game selection realities. Rake matters most in small and medium pots, which is exactly the environment created by loose passive opening and calling. You can beat rake by playing tighter in low expected value positions, pushing more edges in position, and avoiding marginal multi-way pots where your equity is realized poorly. This is not an excuse to be a nit. It is a reminder that close opens from early position and weak calls that seem fine are often negative. Expected value once you account for rake, position, and the likelihood of facing a 3-bet. Key takeaway. Your opening range is only as profitable as its worst assumptions. Respect position and always factor in who is left to act. Use an open size that fits the pool and stop bleeding with dominated offsuit broadways and suited trash. Build your opens so you can continue versus 3 bets. And remember that in online poker, rake and multi-way pots quietly punish loose passive preflop habits. Now, let's test your edge. Question 1. What is the core reason your under-the-gun opening range must be tighter and more robust than your cutoff and button range? Answer. You'll face more players behind you who can 3-bet or flat in position, forcing you to play more pots out of position. Explanation. Early position opens invite pressure from multiple seats and reduce your ability to realize equity compared to late position. Question 2. According to the article, how should your cutoff opening range change when the button behind you has a high 3-bet frequency? Example given. 15%. Answer. Tighten and skew toward hands that can continue versus 3-bets by calling or 4-betting. Explanation. Aggressive players with position reduce the expected value of marginal opens quickly, so your range needs better resistance. Question 3. What is one rake-related problem the article warns about when using very large open sizes from early and middle position online? Answer. You bloat pots with hands that don't want to stack off and pay extra rake in spots you could have won smaller. Explanation. When rake is meaningful, unnecessarily large pots can turn thin edges into silent leaks. Question 4. In the hand scenario, what does the article recommend as the better pre-flop approach for hero on the button versus the cutoff open with king-jack offsuit in many pools? Answer. 3-bet or fold pre-flop, depending on cutoff's opening range and response versus 3-bets. Explanation. The flat invites the big blind, increases reverse implied odds, and king-jack offsuit often lands in dominated regions when aggression ramps up. Question 5. What is the article's main criticism of opening small pairs purely to set mine in online environments with rake? Answer. If your plan is hit a set or fold, you pay a constant tax through dead opens and poor post-flop realization. Explanation. The article states small pairs can be profitable, but the plan must include ways to win pots without flopping a set. Study hard, play smart. That's it for now. I'll see you in the next lesson.